We're just starting the live stream now, and then we'll get started here in just a moment. Okay. Good morning.
Is my sound okay?
Your sound's great, Director Lee.
Okay, not too loud or?
No.
It's good? Okay.
Great. Thanks and good morning, directors. My name is Jake Martins. I'm the Deputy Corporate Legislative Officer, and in accordance with the CVRD procedure bylaw, the first order of business here at the inaugural meeting is to conduct the election of the chair and vice chair for the Black Creek Oyster Bay Services Committee for 2021. There's a process laid out in the procedure bylaw that I could go through. However, unless requested by the directors, we could proceed to the nominations for the chair position if that's supported. Seeing head nodding online. Thanks. So at this time, then I would call for nominations for the position of chair.
I would like to nominate Director Grieve.
Okay, and Director Grieve, unless there's any other nominations, do you allow your name to stand?
Yes, thank you. I do.
Great. So unless there are any further nominations, I'll call a second and then a final third time here. I am pleased to announce, Director Grieve, that you have been acclaimed chair for the Black Creek Oyster Bay Services Committee for 2021. And with that, then we'll move on to the election of the vice chair position. And I would accept any nominations at this time for that position.
I nominate Director Lee.
Thank you very much.
And I accept.
Thank you very much, Director Lee. And with that, I am pleased to announce you as the vice chair for 2021.
Thank you.
So as there's no resolutions required to destroy any ballots, Mr. Chair, I will turn this meeting back over to you to begin the meeting.
Thank you very much, Jake. Well, I call this meeting the first meeting of 2021 to order of the Oyster Bay, Black Creek Oyster Bay Services Committee, and recognize the fact that we're doing our business today on the traditional unceded territories of Comox First Nation, and I think just Comox First Nation. Is that right, Director Lee?
I think so.
The other territory starts a bit farther north. But other than that, we have no management reports, no delegations, and we're going to dive right into the reports. Roadside rescue funding application, a report from January 13th for receipt.
Oh, sorry, Chair. We're going to do the D first, if you don't mind.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, D, public input.
Yeah, we'll just make a comment about this section, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Yep, thank you very much, Chair and Director. And I've just asked Jake Martins just to discuss how we will conduct public input during this this financial planning process, given the procedures we have with respect to our meetings. So thanks, Jake.
Thanks, Russell, and through the chair. So as the directors will recall, typically during the financial planning process, there's an opportunity for the public to provide input through a variety of means. This year, of course, will be slightly different given the COVID pandemic and the restrictions on public in-person attendance. We have added a section here, and typically in past years, you may recall this section for public input was provided at the end of the agenda. However, recognizing that that the public should be afforded an opportunity to provide input prior to budgets being considered and considered for approval, we've put this further up higher on the agenda so that they can provide that input in advance of the presentations. The public, we've issued a news release just, I think, got late on Friday, respecting the opportunities for the public to provide input, and that can be through a variety of means. This one section here, D, provides that if a member of the public does submit a question or a comment through our web form on our website, staff can then summarize that to the directors and online here for the public to receive as well. So if we do receive inquiries or questions, we will seek to raise those under this section. And in addition to those, of course, members of the public can also attend to provide a delegation or other means as well. So at this point, I don't believe we have any inquiries, but again, if we do, we'll look to bring those forward here.
Thank you, Jake. And further to that, they just have to log into www.comoxvalleyrd.ca/budget inquiries. Okay, now, again, I'll move on to number one.
Move to receive the report.
Thank you very much. And back over to staff.
Thank you very much, Chair and Director. And James Bass, Manager Fire Services, is here to present the grant funding application.
Welcome,
Thank
Jim.
Yeah, welcome, Mr. Chair. Through the chair and the committee and through the CAO. In December of 2020, the Oyster River Fire Rescue Department found that they were actually eligible for a grant for road rescue. And so in discussions with senior financial services staff, we found that the fire department was able to apply for the grant, and this staff report is bringing it forward for information only. At this point, we don't know if we've been accepted, but the grant is in process. And I'm available, as is, I believe, Bruce, the fire chief, is available for any questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions, Director?
No questions. I just think it's great that they've applied, and maybe we'll have faster auto extrication equipment that'll help the public. So I think it's a great application.
Yes, I definitely concur on that. So it's very rare that fire departments are eligible for any kind of grant funding. So I just asked through to James, what section is it under? Where does it come from exactly?
The funding, if I may, through the chair, the funding is through Emergency Management BC,
Okay.
and it is a recognition that often fire departments are requested to do auto extrication outside of their boundaries, and that recognition manifests in this grant.
And of course, it's provincial wide.
Yes.
Okay. And do we have any idea what the totals are provincially?
No, I don't, not at this time. Bruce, are you online, Bruce?
Yeah, I'm there. Through the chair. Yeah, Edwin, I sit on the Fire Chiefs Association of BC, who's one of the ones that are helping manage this. And it sounds like the grants throughout the province exceeded the amount of funding. So they're going to be going through, I think there was 96 applications put in. I'm not 100% sure what the funding was. We were eligible to apply for 10,000, and I think we put in for just under $8,000 with the intent. And we, instead of buying one big tool, we put in for 4 or 5 different little tools, hoping that if we put in for one big one, you don't get it. But
yeah,
5 little ones, we might get a couple of them instead of nothing. So that was our intent.
very wise, Chief. Thank you. So any further discussion on the road rescue grant application?
Just wondering, will these auto extrication tools be available to Merville and Mount Washington as well? Or do they have to apply on their own?
Through the chair, they will be available for all the departments, because we will be responding to all 3 of them. So they will be available in all 3 jurisdictions.
Okay, so whatever we get, we're sharing with Merville and Mount Washington?
Yes, they will be on our trucks, but they will be going, if we go to help, they will be going with us.
Okay, good.
Very good. Okay, seeing no further discussion, all in favor of receipt, or beg your pardon, any opposed? Seeing none, that carries. Number 2, 2021 to 2025 proposed financial budget.
Move receipt of report. I guess I can wait for Kevin's report before I say that.
No, that's okay. Our procedure is to move it and second receipt of the report, and then
Okay.
it's presented, and then you vote.
Okay, so I move
on the
receipt.
table, I second it.
Sure, I move receipt.
Second.
Thank you very much, Chair and Director. And as the song goes, this is the most wonderful time of the year, at least if you're Kevin Duval. And it's the proposed financial plan. This is the very first of 97 or thereabouts budgets that we will be reviewing in the next couple of months. Kevin will give you a bit of a summary, and then we'll go probably to James and Bruce to support presentation of the fire budget for your consideration. So first off to Kevin.
Thank you very much, Russell. Through the chair, good morning, directors. So yes, as Russell alluded to, today represents the kickoff for our annual financial planning process. This kickoff represents the public presentation of all of the respective budgets, of which we have 98 services this year. And so over the next approximately 7 weeks, we will be presenting all of our service budgets out to the various committees, commissions, and to the board. So this morning, you'll be seeing the financial plan for the Black Creek Oyster Bay Fire Rescue Service. And then obviously over the next several weeks, we'll be rolling out further ones. So just to give directors a bit of a review as to the process. So as Jake had alluded to in the preamble on the public engagement process, the proposed financial plan for 21 to 25 is posted online. The public can see that at www.comoxvalleyrd.ca/current budget. Everything is there for folks to certainly take a look at. As we move through these public meetings, staff will be taking away any feedback, comments, suggestions, etc. from the directors. Those would then potentially form part of what we call our recommended budget. That recommended budget also does include any finalized 2020 carry forwards of work plan items, capital projects, operational initiatives, etc. It would also include finalized surplus carry forward figures and any information that we may have at that time on updated grant approvals or status or things of that nature. So as in past, we have put together the annual budget dashboard that will be kind of presented at each of the meetings just to give directors a sense of where we're at. So for this morning's meeting, we'll be just touching on the single budget for BCOB Fire. BCOB Water will be presented at the next meeting of the BCOB committee, which is on February the 8th. And so that's it for my summary. I will now, through the CAO, pass it over to James Bast, who will be presenting the actual financial plan.
Thank you.
And Mr. Chair, if you'd like to vote on receipt of Kevin's report, and then we can take a motion to receive the next report on the Black Creek Oyster Bay Fire Protection Service.
Fair enough. We'll call the vote on that. Any opposed? Then that carries.
And then a motion to receive the Fire Protection Service.
So
Second.
moved.
Moved and seconded, and over to James Bast.
Perfect. Thank you. Through the chair and the CAO to the committee. I'm presenting here for the Black Creek Oyster Bay Fire Protection number 230. So just a quick overview. We have in the Oyster River Fire Rescue, it provides, as an entity, provides fire protection, rescue, and medical first response. They also are providing Mount Washington operational fire protection. They're also providing training for the recruits for the greater Merville. They average between 290 and 320 calls per year. And they do this with 31 dedicated volunteers to protect about 8,000 residents in the area, as well as the traveling public. Community partnerships. We have, with this service, we have a service agreement or an agreement with the Oyster River Volunteer Fire Rescue Association to provide bookkeeping and accounting services. We also have an operational management with Mount Washington, where Oyster River manages all of the operations for Mount Washington. We also have partnerships in that the Oyster River Fire Department is training the Merville firefighters. With regards to the COVID-19 renewal, our focus continues to be the health and safety and training of the volunteers and the staff within this fire protection fire department. COVID-19 renewal also included an analysis and subsequent deferral of some capital and operational purchases where appropriate. Now, some of the 2020 work plan accomplishments that this service has been able to do. Number one was we had a Community Emergency Preparedness Fund grant in 2020. And that provided $25,000 in funding for each of the departments, including Oyster River. Oyster River focused on the purchase of wildland fire tools and equipment, and that has been accomplished. We've also applied for in 2021 community resiliency investment grant funding, and that was to provide fire smart education and yard waste debris chipping. That was accomplished as well. As you can see, Oyster River is quite forward and quite helpful with regards to training and education for fire smart. They were able to hand deliver a number of pamphlets to properties within the area. Also, an accomplishment in 2020 was the installation of a fire hydrant on the training grounds so as to provide a safer environment for training and not causing traffic consternation when practicing hydrants. They've also completed the purchase of a passenger van for the transportation of personnel to the scene. Now, our 2021 priorities will be the continuing operational management of the Mount Washington Fire Service. We'll continue the training of the Greater Merville firefighters and to purchase some replacement large diameter hose. Large diameter hose is specific for feeding from a fire hydrant. We'll be replacing some aged turnout gear, and we will again continue with the fire smart education and recognition of fire smart communities in 2021. The overall 21 to 2025 financial plan, the focus includes some replacement of wildfire pumps. That's planned in 2023. As well as the replacement of some the self-contained breathing apparatus, which will age out and in 2023. We're also looking at the replacement of a fire engine, capital replacement in 2024. And we will be moving to the operational management of the Merville Fire Service in 2022 as the agreement with the city of Courtenay terms and the fire hall is built. Oyster River will then become the managing fire department. One of the key aspects of utilizing the expertise within the Oyster River Fire Department as a management for the smaller departments is the apportionment of costs. And so this page here provides just a quick snapshot of the proposed amendment to the policy with regards to apportionment of those costs. It provides for a fair.
James, sorry, but I don't know about you, Director Lee, but I'm not getting any of that on my screen.
I've got it on the left side of my screen. Yeah.
No, I don't have it. I guess I got a computer. Yeah, we did have the agenda page up for a while, but now I only have the three faces. So it's my problem, I guess.
Okay, I'll carry on. You can see by the tables on this presentation that based on the 2020 revised rolls, and we're just using this as a snapshot, as a way to describe and show the allocations. But you'll see that in 2021, the operational costs are divided out in those percentages, where Black Creek Oyster Bay CVRD is 62.9%, SRD is 23.38, and Mount Washington is 13.71. As we move into the operational year of 2022, and the Black Creek Oyster Bay service becomes the management fire department for Merville, those allocations are distributed again based on assessed value and includes Merville. So Black Creek Oyster Bay then becomes 37.59, SRD portion 13.97, Mount Washington 8.19, and the greater Merville local service area becomes 40.25% of the operational costs. And that aspect is captured within the second motion of the staff report.
So I have a question, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So, so will we be taxing in Merville and Mount Washington for their share of those costs, directly taxing them? Are they part of our local service area now, if we're providing operational service to them?
Kevin will answer.
Okay, thank you very much. Through the chair to the directors. So Director Lee, the way we propose to have it work, and this is why we wanted to bring this forward today and potentially formalize that within the Black Creek Oyster Bay Committee's financial planning policy, is what we anticipate is we would continue to solicit a full operational budget from the BCOB Fire Service. That budget would remain within the 230 service area, but then we would apportion that out as James described, similar to how we are charged by whether it's the City of Courtenay for the service areas they provide on our behalf, or for the Village of Cumberland who charges us for the rural Cumberland service. We would then have a recovery from those other two services. So currently, of course, we have a recovery in the budget this year from Mount Washington. We have a small one as well this year for Merville for some training related costs. But as James mentioned, starting in 22, once BCOB Fire takes over the day-to-day operations, we would have a similar recovery. So yes, they would be taxed on their side for those costs that would fall under their tax requisition. What would remain in the respective service areas is any capital costs. So those would continue to stay in the respective local service area and would be paid for accordingly.
So the local service area being Black Creek Oyster Bay would pay for capital costs of equipment and stuff for Merville and Mount Washington?
Not for Merville and Mount Washington. So any costs associated with stocking, say, the hall in Merville, starting in, so currently, for example, within the Merville service budget, we have costs allocated for the construction of the fire hall, the stocking of the vehicles for that hall, the equipment, et cetera. That is all taxed through that greater Merville local service area, not through BCOB.
Oh, they have their own. Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
Sort of a hybrid.
How's that hall project going in Merville? Have they started, are they going under construction soon, or what's the status?
Yeah, if I may, I'll just segue into that one for a quick second. In the Merville case, with the successful electoral assent process, we are currently going through the procurement of the vehicles, fire truck and tanker truck. That process is now underway. Our procurement department and the engineers are currently developing the construction tender documentation, and that should be on its way out shortly. We hope that everything will fall into place with construction through this year, through 2021.
Okay, that sounds good.
Perfect.
Thank you very
much. Continuing on, the comparative budget with regards to the Black Creek Oyster Bay service. The residential tax rate is planned for 64 cents per thousand, which is a decrease of about 1 or 2 cents per thousand of assessed value. Total, the tax requisition is 790,000, which is an increase of about 30,000. Personnel costs 306,000 in 2021, which is an increase of about 18,956. The operating budget 413,000 was a decrease of about 8,000 from 2020. Capital expenditures of $10,000, which is a decrease of about 52,000, and contributions to reserve of 26,700 is an increase of 20,900. That's the comparative snapshot. I'm available, as is Bruce, for any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much, Director Lee.
Do we have a handle on how assessments have increased in the service area for 2021? Do we have that finalized by BC Assessment? No. So this is a guess that that an average property is in fact 500,000, because there's properties in my area that are like double and triple that.
I can attempt to answer that, Director Lee, through the chair to the director. So right now we've just chosen an amount that would be kind of easily kind of identified for calculation purposes. We obviously respect 500, wouldn't represent an average house in many of the areas within the Comox Valley. Based on some early information that I've seen from BC Assessment, and we actually have them coming to speak to the Comox Valley Regional District Board tomorrow to give us a more fulsome sense of what to expect for assessments this year. But certainly based on early indications, we are seeing kind of an average home value of anywhere between 550 and maybe 575. But again, we just kind of sat on that 500 value just to be consistent across all the service budgets that we're presenting. And for those that maybe wanted to do some quick calculations, they could easily do that.
I don't know about you, Director Lee, but I know that my assessment went down very, very slightly.
Mine went up 1%.
Yeah, about the same down on my side. So
yeah, but I've heard that some of the more the newer properties in Area D, they've gone up, like they were given warnings that they're likely to go up 45%. So I'm kind of concerned about the tax, about the rate and the tax requisition, because it'll translate into quite a lot of money for some people. And I wonder if, like, it looks like the tax requisition is up almost 4%. Like the report says it's up 3.9%, which is higher than almost all the other services that we've been trying to hold it down during this COVID stretch to give people a break. We've reduced the hospital requisition and solid waste, and library requisition went down from last year. That there's been a concerted effort on the part of all the services to try to hold it down. And this one's going up 3.9% according to the report. So I don't know if we could possibly, trim that down by transferring some money out of reserves. We've got $245,000 in reserve right now. So could we not transfer out of reserves and apply it to the requisition, just to lower it to 1% or something would be acceptable, but 4% is a little rich, I think.
Mr. Chair, and in response to Madam Director's comments, if you would like us to investigate if there are options for us to reduce the tax increase and bring that back to you at the next meeting, we can do that. One of our cautions with respect to the use of reserves is that it just magnifies the potential increase at a later date. And one of the things that staff have done in terms of trying to find a lower imposition on our ratepayers is to be very mindful that it's slow and steady and not a instant gratification in one year just to receive a dramatic increase in a subsequent year. So we're trying to do it over time, but let us take this concern of yours and come back to you as to whether there are any options and what those might be for your consideration.
Mm-hmm. And the other thing that I thought about with the purchase of a new fire truck in 2024, when we purchased the fire truck before, we did have 50,000 per year in reserves allocated to that, so that we wouldn't have to go out and borrow to purchase the fire truck. And I really have an adversity to borrowing money. I just think that you end up paying more in the long run. And I know, the asset management plan and the philosophy of letting people in the future in the service pay for something that they're getting benefit for through a borrowing rather than a direct tax. But I just don't like the idea of borrowing in these uncertain times either. And I was wondering if that reserve that we have of 245,000 could include the fire trucks or the fire truck purchase in 2024. Or if we could somehow squeeze like $50,000 a year out of somewhere to pay for that without having to borrow.
Kevin?
Certainly through the chair to the directors. So, I mean, we can certainly revisit that as well, Director Lee. I mean, again, I would caution, we have always, tried to take the stance that, for investing in a long-term asset, that we would certainly look at kind of weighing the cost of that on the kind of the taxpayers, as you indicated, that would ultimately benefit from that. In this particular case, I believe we already do have some dollars coming out of reserves. I believe about 50% of the cost of that vehicle coming out of our capital reserve. Therefore, we would be only borrowing half of that cost. But again, we could certainly take a look at that. As Russell did mention, we do really want to make sure that we're managing our reserves as effectively as we can, ensuring that we are, continuing to have dollars for a rainy day, especially if any surprises were to come forward, and yet also to, make sure we're kind of looking at the best balanced approach when funding any kind of capital projects.
May I continue, Mr. Chair?
One more, please.
A little bit. Okay, so I remember when we bought the last fire truck, we had saved up the amounts we needed to pay for it, and because we had the cash on hand, we had a big advantage in that when we bought the fire truck from the United States, we could easily convert the money to US dollars, and we achieved quite a savings in how much we had to pay for that. Campbell River bought a truck around the same time and paid substantially more because of exchange rates and the inability to move quickly on converting our currency and having the currency there. And so I remember that we did benefit in the cost of purchasing the fire truck last time by having cash on hand.
Okay, thank you, Director. If I may, I would offer the alternate opinion on that, because I would remind the Director that when we were building the Kellen Reservoir, that we were all set to do it. And I think we were about 250 short. And thinking we were prudent, and at the time I think we were, in our view, that we actually decided to hold back for 2 more years to build up the reserves. Unfortunately, in the meantime, the Canadian dollar fell down 17% and the price of steel went up, and we ended up having to pay all the reserves, and plus the amount we would have paid, we would have had it 2 years earlier. So there's two sides to it. I think the balanced approach is the best way forward. I'm very heartened to see we're not dipping too much into our reserves, because I would put forward that when we talk about the pandemic, we were naive last year in thinking that we were already in recovery, and to borrow for the taxpayers today, I mean, to actually dip into reserves to cover the operations, I think is very short-sighted, because I think we will find that this year may prove to be even worse, and the fallout of this pandemic is going to go years into the future. So I think we have to tread very carefully and balance things right through the whole process. So I would say that I would support what has been put forward by our financial team right now.
I would definitely, though, like to look at how we could reduce the tax requisition from 4% or 3.9, because I think this is the wrong time to do that. I was wondering, is there any COVID funds available? Like, did we not get grants to our regional districts to deal with COVID? You know, is there something we could put towards the Oyster River Fire Department for that?
Thank you very much, Director. And Mr. Chair, I'll just refer to Kevin to outline that program and whether or not there's any possibility here.
So yes, thank you through the chair to director. So yes, currently, as I believe the directors are aware, we did receive about 723,000 in BC Safe Restart funding last year. That was then by budget amendment incorporated into last year's financial plan. We've carried the balance of that over to 2021, and we are still in the process of allocating that out to a number of service areas. We are anticipating that a small portion of those funds will be available for the fire services under our purview. And so likely you will see some dollars brought forward into the recommended budget in that respect. But at this point, we're only estimating that there may be about $10,000 for each fire service at this point. So again, we will certainly look at how we can maybe allow that to offset some costs here. And certainly I'll work with James Vest to see what else we may be able to do within the service.
And if I may, sorry, Mr. Chair, I'm just going to ask Kevin that maybe he reach out to the financial manager at Strathcona too, to see if there's a comparable contribution through their restart funds for this service as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good point.
I know our agenda.
That we have quite a bit of meeting left yet, and we've only got 15 minutes to do it. So if we could move on receipt of number 3. Anybody opposed? That carries. And the recommendation 1, if that could be moved. Because it is just the proposed budget after all. We have a lot of breather room yet. So.
Well, could we not defer this till we have the Black Creek Oyster Bay water budgets, and then look at both of them after the questions that I asked are addressed, and maybe the budget proposal will be amended?
A suggestion, if you wish to propose that, would be to refer this to the next meeting of the Black Creek Oyster Bay Committee and ask staff to come back with possible options with respect to that increased requisition concern that you had.
Yeah, I think that by the time we have the next meeting, we'll have a better idea of how assessments have gone. And then we can see how it's going to impact the average property. What is the average property? Because I think we need to make sure that that's going to be acceptable before we approve the proposed budget. So I would move that this item be deferred until the next Black Creek Oyster Bay meeting.
So in the interest of moving it forward, I'll second that. So on that motion, any opposed? That carries. Now we're moving on. If I could have the screen move up. Oh, there we go. So we're right at a new business and in camera. So we're basically there. Yeah, well, just in my way of thinking, I think it's very important that we view this exceptional circumstances we find ourselves in due to COVID and as a very long game. I don't think at least at the CVRD level that we kind of were naive in thinking that we were already through it somehow and things are going to go back to some kind of normal. And I do think it's important that we view it as something that's going to be around for a long time, and the ramifications are definitely going to be around for a long time. And so I am very happy that in the budget that we're not dipping into the piggy bank by 60 grand or whatever we did last year. So, it's good to have reserves. We can borrow for capital. We know that, but we're not supposed to run deficits per se. So we have to balance it out and do what's best, what brings the maximum benefit to the majority of people. And if you talk about people who have $2 million homes, I would say that, they're victims of their own success maybe, but, proportionately, they may be paying a little more tax. But when you view it in light of your overall budgets, people don't even think twice of spending over $200 a month for their internet and their phone and their TV, but $200 a month for their municipal taxes sends them into a tizzy. So it's very difficult. I think the CAO brought it forward that it's very difficult trying to ramp taxes back up. So I'm one to think that maybe we should try to hold the line. And I've said this many times, keep our powder dry, because we don't know what waits around the corner. And we have to be prepared.
Well, maybe the staff could, when they bring it back to us, maybe give us a few options. Something that would satisfy you and me about the tax requisition. Maybe we could have a few options presented to us at the next meeting, just to really drill down into what we need and how we're going to allocate the cost.
And I do think that maybe we should look at allowing a little more time for the Black Creek Oyster Bay meetings, because we know that historically they can go on.
Mm-hmm. Especially when I'm not in the chair and I'm talking.
It's all good. So is there anything further? I don't see anything on the agenda. I will entertain a motion to adjourn or terminate.
I move to terminate.
Second. Any opposed? That carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, staff. Thank you very much, Director.